Sometime after midnight on November 13th, 4 University of Idaho students, Shawna Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves, were all viciously attacked while sleeping in an off-campus townhouse. On the night of Saturday, November 12, 2022, everything seemed normal. Kernodle and Chapin went to a party at the Sigma Chi fraternity. Mogen and Goncalves went out to a bar, then hung out at a food truck for a bit. By 2 a.m. Sunday, according to the probable cause affidavit, everyone had gathered at the house on King Road where Mogen, Goncalves, and Kernodle lived with 2 other roommates. The 3-story house was accessible primarily by a secure door with a coded entry on the bottom floor, as well as by a sliding glass door on the main level 2nd floor of the house. The lower entry was locked, but the sliding glass door might have been more easily accessible. At 4 a.m., Kernodle ordered Jack in the box. At 4:12 a.m., she was on her phone, surfing TikTok. Sometime in the next few minutes, the attack began. She tried to fight off her attacker, but by 4:25 a.m., she and her boyfriend would both be dead. The killer attacked on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the house, entering each of the victims' rooms for separate attacks, but he left the roommates on the main and lowest floors alive. He used a large crowbar knife of the style used by the U.S. Marine Corps. Nearby surveillance footage captured audio of the attacks around 4:17 a.m., including distressed sounds and barking from Goncalves' dog. As revealed in the affidavit, one roommate told police she heard noises and crying, but didn't understand what she was hearing. Although she opened her door repeatedly to see what was happening, she saw nothing alarming, though she did report hearing Goncalves say, "There's someone here." Sometime later, over sounds of crying coming from Kernodle's room, she heard a male voice saying, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." The 3rd time she opened her door, it was to the sight of a man clad all in black and wearing a mask, walking toward her. As she stood in frozen shock, the killer walked by her room. It's unclear whether or not he saw her. With his face mostly covered, the roommate noted the only thing she could see clearly, the suspect's bushy eyebrows. That detail would later prove accurate. Still stunned, the roommate returned to her room and locked her door, while the killer exited through the sliding glass door on the apartment's main floor. Then he vanished. On Sunday, at 11:58 a.m., 911 received a phone call from a roommate's phone, during which multiple people at the scene spoke to the dispatcher. This 911 call has not been released, but there's been considerable confusion due to reports of an unconscious person at the scene. Police clarified that the surviving roommates summoned friends to the residence because they believed one of the 2nd floor victims had passed out and was not waking up. This statement, however, led to widespread bafflement from the public about how a bloody crime scene involving multiple fatalities could have been so misunderstood and misreported. The murders immediately made national headlines and left the community in disbelief. Despite police initially stating there was no ongoing community risk, the panic was real. Once news of the deaths broke, so many students on the 11,000-member University of Idaho campus fled the school, that the university decided to allow students an optional early Thanksgiving break. Concerned calls to 911 spiked, and residents expressed fear of a Ted Bundy-like predator stalking and choosing their victims randomly. Early police statements didn't help clear this up. After initially releasing contradictory statements about whether the attack had been personal or random, police released body cam footage taken the night of the murders from unrelated nearby interactions. It's unclear if the footage led to tips that proved useful in Kohberger's eventual arrest, but it did lead to a flurry of rumors and speculation that brief, blurry motion in the background of the video might be a group of people running from the crime scene. On the hunt for clues, people poured over the 4 victims' social media, accusing everyone from their friends to random people who showed up in the background of Instagram photos. The food truck, which ran a Twitch live stream, became a huge source of public speculation, with people examining footage of Goncalves and Morgan hanging out by the truck, looking for any clues that someone may have been stalking the two women. Police had to issue statements formally clearing multiple people and one animal of suspicion, including the surviving roommates, an ex-boyfriend of one of the victims who she had repeatedly called the night of the attack, a random man who was at the food truck, and, most bizarrely, a University of Idaho professor who was fingered for the crime by the inner spirit of a tarot reader on TikTok. That bonkers sidebar in this morbid case lends an idea of how chaotic things looked from the sidelines. A heinous crime, with an apparent lack of witnesses, no significant leads, and a lack of serious suspects, but plenty of distracting, obfuscating, unhelpful social media noise. When, on December 7th, police asked the public for help locating a white Hyundai Elantra that had allegedly been spotted at the crime scene, it seemed to many people to be less like a real, promising lead and more like busywork. 5 days after the murders, a criminology doctoral student at Washington State University changed the title on his white 2015 Hyundai Elantra before driving it cross-country from Idaho to his parents' home in Pennsylvania. His attempts to prevent authorities from tracing the car, however, overlook one thing. Police had his DNA after the bodies were discovered. Authorities reviewed surveillance video and saw the suspect's white Hyundai Elantra go by the victim's house 3 times before entering the area for a 4th time at 4:04 am, according to the documents. Police said they traced the car's travel that night back to Pullman, Washington, where Kohberger lived. Kohberger's phone was tracked heading to Moscow before the attack, but the phone was off from 2:47 am to 4:48 am, which is consistent with Kohberger attempting to conceal his location during the quadruple homicide, the affidavit said. He also returned to the area of the house where the 4 students were killed, just after 9 am, about 5 hours after the murders. Based on phone records, the affidavit also showed his phone was near the victim's house at least 12 times before the murders, at least as far back as August, according to the affidavit. All of those times, except for one, were late at night or early in the morning. Autopsies conducted on November 17th determined all victims were stabbed multiple times, police said. The 4 students were probably asleep when attacked, and some had defensive wounds, police said. There was no sign of sexual assault, police added. More than 6 weeks after 4 University of Idaho students were mysteriously stabbed to death in a house near the Moscow, Idaho, campus, a suspect was identified and taken into custody. Released on January 5th revealed how police zeroed in on their suspect, Brian Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology Ph.D. student at Washington State University, located less than 10 miles away from the University of Idaho. A 28-year-old graduate student was arrested Friday morning in Pennsylvania's Pocono Mountains in connection with the November murders of 4 University of Idaho students, police said, but many details of the case still remain a mystery. Police identified Kohberger as a suspect, at least in part, by using DNA technology, and police then tracked the grad student to Pennsylvania through his car. Kohberger was seen multiple times outside the Pennsylvania home wearing surgical gloves, according to the law enforcement source. In one instance prior to Kohberger's arrest, authorities observed him leaving his family home around 4 am and putting trash bags in the neighbor's garbage bins, according to the source. At that point, agents recovered garbage from the Kohberger family's trash bins and what was observed being placed into the neighbor's bins, the source said. The recovered items were sent to the Idaho State Lab, per the source. Idaho authorities have released the most comprehensive evidence yet tying the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students to a suspect arrested last week and charged with murder in their killings. Among the new information is the recovery of a DNA sample from a leather knife sheath found in one of the victim's beds that appears to be a strong match for Koberger, as well as the revelation that a roommate of the victims had been awoken during the night and saw a strange masked man exit the house. Idaho authorities have charged Bryan Koberger with murder in the November stabbing deaths of the 4 students, with a volume of evidence, the roommate's description, the movements of the white Elantra, and the cell phone data, appearing to point to Koberger. Authorities in Idaho enlisted the help of Pennsylvania police to collect a DNA sample to test against the one recovered from the button snap of a tan leather knife sheath found in a bed near one victim's body. On December 27th, police in Pennsylvania recovered a sample from the trash outside the Koberger family residence in Albrightsville. The Idaho State Crime Lab determined that the sample found in the trash likely belongs to the biological father of the person who left DNA on the knife sheath, according to the affidavit. 3 days later, Pennsylvania police arrested Koberger. He was soon extradited to Idaho, where he's expected to appear in court on Thursday, January 12, 2023. Koberger's lawyer, Jason Labar, the chief public defender of Monroe County, PA, said the suspect believes he's going to be exonerated.